Hey all, Pastor Emil here. Tuesday, June 2nd for Tuesday Tunes. Um, sorry, I got a little bit, they got a little bit away from me today, but I did have a song that I wanted to share with you and chat with you about. It's actually not a song that I even knew until very recently. This was my wife's recommendation, so thank you, Heather. That was awesome. It's There Was Jesus by Zach Williams. Uh, we'll talk about that in a little bit. First, I wanted to say to all the Open Arms folks out there, really looking forward to seeing you in person on Sunday. It's going to be awesome. We've got some wonderful ladies that have been making all kinds of phone calls to try and take reservations, essentially, just to make sure we know how many people are coming and that we have enough space and that we're doing everything that we should be doing to keep in line with all the guidelines that have been put out there. We moved into phase two. According to the governor of Louisiana, here on Monday, we're going to be moving into phase two starting Friday. So that means Sunday we can actually have a whole lot more in our worship center. But that just meant that these ladies had a whole lot more phone calls to make. Looking forward, though, to seeing an awful lot of you. Thanks to Lisa, thanks to Brittany for making sure we got those phone calls in. If you haven't contacted us and let us know that you are definitely coming on Sunday, please do that. Please do that as soon as you can. Call the church, talk to Lisa, talk to Brittany, have them get your name down, your family, you and your husband or wife, you just yourself. Let us know how many are coming so we can get all the seating done appropriately. So looking forward to that. Keep in mind, even with phase two, yeah, we can fit more in there, but we are actually still going to have to maintain all of the social distancing stuff, trying to escort people in and out, with the ushers keeping, at least guiding people in and out, and maintaining our distance, not hugging and kissing and spending lengthy amounts of time fellowshipping inside the building. At least you want to do that outside, you can get together outside, um, and masks, because we're gonna be singing, we're gonna be talking and shouting rejoice and doing all kinds of other stuff, and we want to make sure we're not spreading potential germs to some of the folks that might be coming that are perhaps a little bit more vulnerable, or at least connected to people that are more vulnerable. This virus is looking like it's maybe not as serious for certain groups of people, but it's even more serious than for certain other groups of people. And so we want to make sure that we are thinking of those among us that are most vulnerable to this. So caring for the least, as Jesus did and as Jesus would have us to do too. All right, so here we go. If you haven't heard this song before, again, I haven't heard it myself until my wife brought it up. She brought the song to my attention. It's There Was Jesus by Zach Williams. And when I was listening to the song and I talked to my wife a little bit about it, hey, what'd you like about this song? That's really an awesome song, a powerful song. I put it up on a devotional prayer with a scripture passage and a link to the YouTube video earlier this morning. And man, that song, Jesus. Well, I got the lyrics printed out right here, like I've done the last couple of times. So it starts out, every time I tried to make it on my own, every time I tried to stand and start to fall, and all those lonely roads that I've traveled on, there was Jesus. Now, right out of the gates there, I start thinking about myself and going, yeah, I tried to make it on my own, tried to stand on my own and started to fall, all those lonely roads I've traveled on. Sometimes we wind up on these lonely roads, we wind up in these terrible situations because of pride. We're actually trying, in some respects, to get away from Jesus, trying to get away from God, trying to avoid relying on Him. And I got to tell you, more and more I find this to be not a uniquely American problem, but it is a significant problem for Americans because our culture, I think, lends itself to this in a very powerful way. It celebrates independence, which is a good thing, a lot of the freedom and independence we celebrate, but it also, again, lends itself to this idea that, well, I got to do it all on my own. I got to build my life on my own. I got to pull myself up by my bootstraps. And sometimes, oftentimes, at some point, we learn that we can't, that we are utterly and completely dependent. If you're a Christian, you've had to have gotten to that point because you can't be a Christian without coming to a place where you recognize that you are completely and utterly dependent, that you are in desperate need for something that you cannot do on your own. You need Jesus. You need Jesus for forgiveness. You need Jesus for sustaining you and strengthening you and helping you reach the salvation and eternal life that God has in mind for us, right? So it's not something we can do. It's not even something we can participate in. It's something that we only receive by the grace of God through faith in Jesus Christ. And so that first verse really made me start thinking about all the times where I've thought, well, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And I realized I couldn't. And the amount of pain, I guess, or the hit to my pride that it took to recognize, no, I can't do this on my own. And actually, I should be okay with that. God created me, He created all of us to be dependent creatures, dependent upon Him, ultimately, for all things. Give us this day our daily bread, a daily dependence. You look back at the Israelites wandering around in the wilderness, and what did He do? He gave them manna daily, right? He didn't say, oh, here you go, I'm going to fill up a great big giant barn full of food, full of grain, full of whatever, and you just hang out and enjoy that for a while. No, He said, I'm going to put it out there each and every day, and each and every day you need to go out and collect it, except of course for the Sabbath, but that's a story for another day where they distrusted Him and went out anyway. And all those lonely roads that I've traveled on, there was Jesus. When the life I built came crashing to the ground. Life I built, here we go again. When the friends I had were nowhere to be found. I couldn't see it then, but I can see it now. There was Jesus. This song, throughout the song, I've kind of thought of it in a couple of different ways. Of course, there's our lives coming crashing down, and our friendships and the people that we thought would be friends that aren't there for us when we need them to be. And Jesus is there with us. So no matter what's going on, He's not far from us. He's not deserted us. He's not abandoned us like other people may have abandoned us, right? Jesus is there, right? So He's physically present, okay? I am with you always, even to the very end of the age. I will never leave you nor forsake you. And countless times throughout the Bible where He talks about this. I've got a list of Bible passages that I found. Joshua 1:9, Isaiah 41, verse 10, Isaiah 43:2, Isaiah 6:9, Deuteronomy 31, verse 6 and verse 8, Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 17, Psalm 23, verse 4. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil because You are with me. This comes up over and over and over again. Psalm 34:18. God is close to the brokenhearted, and so there's that aspect to this song. But there's also another way that, as I was listening to it, I really felt like it was also powerful in this respect, that not only is Jesus with us in those moments, but in those moments, personally, I've gone, well, there was Jesus. Like, not there's Jesus with me, but my life came crashing down, and my friends were nowhere to be found. And then, oh yeah, there was Jesus. There was Jesus who literally built an amazing life of perfection and righteousness, a life that should have been rewarded with only good things, and yet was taken from him in one of the most clear, probably one of the purest ever times of great injustice that the world has ever seen, right? Because if something bad happens to you that you did nothing to deserve, right? So like, let's say you get convicted for murder, right? And you go to prison and you spend your whole life in there, or you're executed for murder, right? And you didn't commit that murder. In reality, you and I, if that happens to us, we're still guilty. We're still deserving of death because we're sinners, right? The wages of sin is death. All have fallen short and fall short. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. So even that injustice isn't the same kind of injustice because we're sinners, right? Jesus was perfect. Jesus did nothing deserving of death whatsoever, and yet he goes through this kangaroo court trial. He has all of his friends abandon him. Peter denies him. The rest of the disciples fled, right? I mean, at least Peter was there. Where was everyone else? And Peter betrays him. Judas betrays him. Peter denies him. So many things. And I've noticed that in my life, when I'm in those situations, when I'm in rock bottom, despair, hopelessness, just wondering all of the terrible things that are going on in my life, the pain I'm experiencing physically, emotionally, whatever it is, I go, and then there was Jesus. Jesus has gone through way more than I ever have, way more than I ever will. Jesus deserved it far less than I do. And it's not that it takes away your pain, but it changes your perspective on your pain. It changes your focus, right? So you're not focused so much on your pain anymore. Now you're reflecting on Christ and what he's done for you and the love that has been displayed for you. And it's overwhelming. It's truly overwhelming. I remember one time I had, a few years ago, I started having some problems with my feet, and I started wearing these night splints basically to hold my feet in place so that they didn't, fall down at night, like when your feet fall forward when you lay down, because the muscles and tendons in my feet and ankles and calves would tighten up, and when I would wake up in the morning, there would be pain again. So I got these night splints. And when I first put on the night splints, I had them on for like maybe a night or two, and I was trying to get used to them, but it was just really bizarre, and I'd always wind up like taking them off and getting frustrated. I'm like, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. But then one night, in the midst of my frustration, I'm just fed up, and I'm going to throw these things out. Even though they were kind of working, right? So they were helping me a little bit wake up without the pain in my feet. It hit me like a ton of bricks that my 3-year-old, our daughter, was born with a club foot, and she actually had to wear these pretty restrictive, confining boots every night. Actually, she wore them all day for the first 6 months of her life, and then she wore them for most of the day for the first 18 months of her life. And then she wore them every night until she was like about 4 years old. And I'm sitting there getting ready to throw these things against the wall because I just can't. I don't know how you do this. How do you do this confined like this? And they're just warm and sweaty, and it's just uncomfortable. And I realized what my daughter had been going through. And it just completely changed my perspective. I shut up. I stopped complaining. And I never thought twice about it ever again. Anytime I even had the slightest inclination to whine, it just vanished. as soon as I remembered what my little girl had been going through. So I think that's similar to what happens also when we consider Jesus, right? So we're going through our stuff and we're thinking about our pain, and then we go, oh, there was Jesus. We think about what he endured, and now suddenly our pain takes on a very different meaning, has a very different purpose. Now suddenly we're recognizing the fullness of what Jesus actually went through for us, for you, for me, for all the people of this world. And that he entered into it willingly. He didn't have to endure anything. He could have just stayed in heaven with his Father and just enjoyed perfection and the lap of luxury and just the bliss of being in his Father's presence forever and ever and ever and ever. But instead, he chose all of this. He chose it all for you. He chose it all for me. So, in the waiting, in the searching, in the healing and the hurting, like a blessing buried in the broken pieces, every minute, every moment, where I've been and where I'm going, even when I didn't know it or couldn't see it, there was Jesus. Waiting, searching, healing, hurting, Jesus is there again. Jesus is bringing blessings out of all of the pain that we endure. Jesus is bringing about good even in the midst of evil. And Jesus is bringing about blessing even in the face of injustice and pain and brokenness. For this man who needs amazing kind of grace, right? So that's kind of a personal reflection there. He's making a confession that he needs an amazing kind of grace. He's recognized how foolish he is, right? And again, this was me too. Every time I try to make it on, every time I try to stand and start to fall without being dependent, right? An amazing kind of grace for forgiveness at a price I couldn't pay. I'm not perfect, so I thank God every day. There was Jesus, right? And I think that's probably where I started to look at this in those two lights, right? There was Jesus with me, and oh yeah, and there was Jesus enduring far worse than I can even begin to imagine. On the mountain, in the valleys, in the shadows of the alleys, in the fire, in the flood, always is and always was. No, I never walk alone. You are always there. In the waiting, in the searching, and again the chorus, there was Jesus. So, if you are frustrated by what's going on in the world, what's going on in our cities, what's going on in your own community, in your own neighborhood, if you're frustrated by what's been going on with whether it's George Floyd and all the fallout from that, whether it's the coronavirus and all the stay-at-home stuff, whether it's not being able to gather at church or all kinds of other stuff, whether it's economic fallout from the stay-at-home order and your business suffering, your income at risk, Jesus is with you. He hasn't left you. In fact, it's in those moments that he may actually be closest. If nothing else, it's in those moments when we finally realize that he is there, that he is that close, that we can reach out and grab him. Sometimes we're just so busy looking to achieve things. We're just so busy trying to build our own lives and build an incredible lifestyle for ourselves and fill our lives with activity and with all the pleasures and luxuries of life, that we forget that, oh yeah, there's Jesus. Jesus who did so much for me and who will actually bring me far more joy than anything else ever can, far more joy than anything else ever will, far more satisfaction and fulfillment than anything else that can or will, and I've neglected him for far too long. I remember hearing one time that you never know that God is all you need until God is all you have. I'll say that again. So sometimes you don't know that God is all you need until God is all you have. And I think that's what all these moments when things seem to be taken from us, when the life we built comes crashing down, when the friends that we thought were going to bring us safety and security and satisfaction in life and fulfillment, when all of that's gone, it's actually a tremendous gift, because it's in those moments when we recognize how much better Jesus is to anything and everything else this life has to offer. And it causes us to long even more for the day when we see him face to face, when it's not difficult to recognize his presence, right? So like right now, if I take you and I look around, I've got crosses on my wall, but I don't see Jesus. You don't see Jesus. You don't feel Jesus and experience the presence of Jesus in the way that we will one day. And all this stuff will just make us long for that even more, recognize what we have already by the power of the Spirit. And so during this time of uncertainty, during these unprecedented times, I hate using that phrase because everyone says that and it's just like, come on. But in the midst of all of this mess, or whatever mess you're in, or the next mess to come, don't waste it. Use it as an opportunity to recognize that there was Jesus. All right, y'all. My battery's about to die. I've been going on for long enough. It's funny how easy it is for me to just drone on and on and on, and then suddenly so much time has elapsed. But I hope this has been helpful for you. This is a great song. Take some time to listen to it. I usually listen to them several times before I sit down and do one of these, and listen to them again afterward and throughout the whole day. It's kind of my song for the day, and really helps me focus on Jesus and what I have in Jesus. So I hope this is an opportunity for you to be blessed by that as well. God bless you. Send me your requests for songs. I got a growing list, so I'll get to them when I can, but would love to hear from you. Hope to catch up with you soon. God bless you. Bye-bye.